When he asked me to speak about the experiences and reactions typically of people with macular degeneration, I said, Glendon, if you can give me 50 minutes, I'll just about squeeze it in. He gave me 5. That's fine, because I've been helped greatly today, first by Keith, then by Alan. So to save having to explain my layman's interpretation of wet and dry, I know you're all experts now. So I'll start with the wet condition, which, as we know, is aggressive, happens very quickly. People that I speak with in the counselling service, which has now been operating and it's in its 16th year, people who I speak with tell me they fear the injection. They're being open and honest. What expression did we used to use, perhaps in another conversation? I'd rather have needles stuck in my eyes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's exactly what happens. So we can start to perhaps try to appreciate and understand the fear in these people's minds, certainly when they speak to us at the counselling service. It was also made mention by Sir David earlier about his hospital in Southend. Well, that's happening around the country, and that's reflected in clients that use our counselling service telling us they're waiting for their next appointment. It's been 6 weeks. I had one lady said to me only recently, I've waited 9 weeks. Can you imagine, ladies and gentlemen, the anxiety that raises in their minds, the fear, I'm going to lose my sight, nobody cares. So I'm not here to criticise the NHS, I think they're doing a fantastic job. But I'm here to tell you typical reactions and typical experiences of people with the condition. Now, similarly with the people suffering with the wet condition, when they do get the treatment, as we know, it generally works. But for those that are waiting longer than they realise they should have, they feel they want to complain. They feel they want to ring the hospital and say what's going on. But it's so common in elderly people who have been crushed by the condition, who are anxious, depressed, and they are scared to complain because they feel they will get shabby treatment. Again, this is not a criticism of the services, but it's what we hear in the counselling service. We've had many thousands of sessions now over the years that we've been operating, and I'm just picking out typically what people are saying, and they fear that if they complain, they'll be mentioned in the hospital, here's that one that complains again. This is their fear. Moving on to the dry type, as we've been very well informed earlier, is not treatable. So sensitivity regarding the diagnosis being delivered is vital. Now, it wasn't so long ago that many of our clients were reporting to us at the counselling service that they were being told there's nothing can be done. We won't need to see you at the clinic again. And I guess maybe that's what happened to that unfortunate gentleman that Michael just made mention of. He felt his life had ended, and it's not uncommon for us in the counselling service to hear people say, I don't want to wake up. That's dreadful because it's wrong. There is a lot of support out there, so it's very important when people are told there's no treatment for you at the moment. Many of our clients say to us, why wasn't I directed towards statutory services like rehabilitation, the ROVIs that Michael mentioned? Why aren't we directed towards the charity sector, whether it's the Macular Society, the RNIB, whoever it is? Because we know we can offer them support, we know we can offer them advice. With the dry type, the support services are vital. But I just want to share with you a couple of typical themes that come up so often that it's worth mentioning. The first one is many people will say, I'm going to become a burden on my family. This could be somebody who's in their 80s, perhaps raised a family, perhaps had a successful career, done a lot of stuff with their life, and they're looking forward to a nice, comfortable retirement. Suddenly, whack, wham, wallop, AMD, it's dry, nothing can be done. And they feel their life is over. So it is important to refer them to those statutory services, but you can understand in a way why they say, I'm going to be a burden. It's understandable. The other one, which is very common, is I feel a fraud. As Keith very expertly told us, this is a central vision problem. So we don't lose our sight completely. And yet, I can speak in the United Kingdom, many of our clients say, why am I being registered as severely sight impaired? That's the new National Health Service language for blind. Why am I being registered blind? And of course, macular, particularly the dry, but also the wet, is not cosmetic. You don't look like there's anything wrong. But I can tell you now from somebody that has macular degeneration, I don't know who I know in this room. I have to rely on others. And this is how it affects many people. They feel a fraud because they're between the blind world and the sighted world. It comes up so often, it's worth mentioning. Now, I didn't want to miss this opportunity to flag up something else that's going on throughout the United Kingdom at the moment, which is something called Charles Bonnet syndrome. For those of you that haven't heard of that, it's hallucinations. And these, as we know from research, are caused by the malfunction of the retina. But imagine somebody in your family with AMD saying, there's a dog on the end of my bed, he's got a bone, and there's nothing there. Or typically someone else, a lady ringing, one of my clients actually, ringing her daughter saying, there are men in my garden, they're chopping my tree down. Doesn't that sound like they're just a bit crazy? But they're not. And the fear for us at the Society is that these people are being referred to mental health services when more awareness of this condition, Charles Bonnet syndrome, would help direct these people to the right kind of support. And as we know from research that's been conducted, this is a condition that is harmless. It's a strange phenomenon, but it's harmless. So those are the things I wanted to share with you about typical reactions and experiences. I hope I've used my 5 minutes and helped in some way. I will just leave you with a thought, and this is something that was mentioned by our host earlier about his mother. I think perhaps to consider for everybody, whether somebody's got the wet, the dry, whether they're experiencing hallucinations, imagine that's your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, a loved friend. All they ask for is to be treated sensitively and with respect. And that, unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, from the experience of running the counselling service, isn't always the case. Thank you very much.